You are now listening to the iWalter Show. Real talk about nothing.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird brain. It's a plane. It's iWalter. iWalter. Yes, it's iWalter, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. iWalter, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend ears with his annoying voice, and who disguised as Walter Interranti, mild-mannered janitor for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, nonsense, and the American way. And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of iWalter.
Alrighty then. Hey, it's iWalter. It is Wednesday, July 29th, 2015. I'm not sure I'm going to go which direction with my show tonight. There was a few things I actually did want to cover, and I wanted to explain myself. I guess to give you a highlight, I'm just going to read a couple stories, and then I'm going to go into what I said to a friend I was going to probably cover tonight. You might, if you've listened to my shows in the past, you might have noticed, I mention a lot, basically because I'm a white male. I'm actually I'm partially Italian, Sicilian, and Dutch, and you will hear me talk and complain a lot about minorities, women, and also African Americans. Well, there's a reason for that, because it just seems like, it wasn't an issue years ago, for one thing. I actually grew up, and I didn't even know what a minority was growing up in the area I was. We were pretty much one, I didn't never thought about if somebody was Italian or Sicilian or Jewish. We were all the same. So, and then the last so many years, it became more and more of an issue. So I want to go into that, but first, before I even go to that, because a friend, I left a couple messages explaining myself about this whole thing, and I actually, I was going to get started when I do talk about that. I have friends over the years that, especially when I was living in an apartment for a few years down in Horsham, I had a friend, a very good friend. He actually helped me out a lot. He was actually more of a mentor, like a counselor. He really wasn't, but he was like a counselor to me. And he was what you call now African American. I never even thought of him that way. I just thought of him as a person who actually helped me out, that both me and my parents really respected. His name was Joe Thomas, and the guy helped me out a lot. Like, he really, and if I felt sorry for myself, he actually got mad one time, and I might have mentioned this eons ago on one of my podcasts. He actually got mad, and he says, if you want to feel sorry for yourself, I'll show you what feeling sorry for yourself feel that, if I want to feel sorry for myself, I'll show you something you can feel sorry about. And he never let that hold him back. So that kind of thing, I respect out of people. And now it's always people complaining about how they don't have it that good and they deserve everything. And it just gets really old. So I'm going to go into that. Anyway, a friend had sent me this article, and he found it on Upworthy.com, and it says it's titled "The Nine Teachers Who Received Rewards from the White House Were All in the U.S. Illegally." So there's an article on that, and it's just stuff like that really just gets me mad. You hear about this. You're getting praised for being in this country illegally. I think it's just ridiculous. Anyway, if you'd like to read that, it is on Upworthy.com. I just wanted to bring that to people's attention. Again, I think it's just ridiculous. A friend, actually, he's finally caught on that, it really upsets me, before I get into what I wanted to talk about. Like at our job, we have a dress code, nobody follows it, and this is another thing that really bothers me, but you have women and young girls who are complaining about oh, that's just another way of discriminating upon women. Well, one story a friend sent me, I told him, I said right off the bat, this girl got sent home. It says J.C. Penney employees sent home for wearing shorts she bought at J.C. Penney's. And I'm like looking at it, it's like, okay, this is one case I'd have to side with this girl. I'm not saying it's the only one, though, but I'm just saying in this incident, there was nothing wrong with what she was wearing. It was totally acceptable. Trust me, I'll be the first one to complain if it isn't. And that article, again, is on today.com. You know, that basically, I think it's that TV show, morning show called Today. And, I mean, that's an exception to the rule. I mean, when I'm talking about stuff, because a friend sent me a couple different articles on that subject, because he knows how much it bothers me. There would be one that I don't see it right now, but there was one where it's like, okay, yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Again, young teenage girls are complaining about, oh, you know, it's just, the society ganging up against us because, you know, they don't like the way we dress and, you know, hey, if we have it, we should flaunt it. It was like, well, you know what? There's a proper place and time for that stuff. You know, it's happened over the years, but I think it's just gotten progressively worse. And, I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, everybody loves to show off their bodies, I think, at some way or another. But there's got to be like, okay, there's a place and time in school. That's why if you go to a private school, they try to focus people on not the way they look. I'm trying to look on this one that I was mentioned that a friend had sent me. He sent me a couple different ones again. But they make people wear, uniforms, and there's a reason for that, because their focus should not be on how many people can they grab their attention. It should be on education, and that's completely taken out of the picture. Now, I'm looking at it now. I did find it, and this girl is just a typical example of what's going on at work. And these are grown people. These are people in their late 20s and early 30s that act like they're still in high school, though. But the one the friend sent me was from the New York Post.st. I never heard of that before, but I'm not even kidding. It's NYP for New York Post.st. And this article was written by this woman named Elizabeth, it looks like. And it said, for the love of God, stop dressing like crap. Well, in that article, though, by the way, there's this thing where it says this girl, it's a young girl, she's wearing like basically a see-through top that's got a workout top underneath. It's a young girl, and she's wearing spandex shorts. So, hey, you know what? If you want to do that on your own time, that's one thing. But if you make that your regular dress attire, that's a little bit probably, depending where you are at, yeah, it is a bit inappropriate. I'm sorry, but it really is. Does that make me old-fashioned? Not necessarily, but you're trying to, grab attention from people. It actually looks like in one of these pictures it's with basically Caitlyn Jenner, so it must be in that bunch. And they do dress kind of wild. It's called Kaylee Zizzy Snapshots. Kaylee Jenner Snapshots. So, yeah, it is one of those. But, yeah, she's wearing, like, these spandex shorts and, like, these tops pushing up her breast. And, yeah, that is, honestly, that's completely inappropriate, depending where you're at. But, and the reason I'm mentioning this, by the way, is because there's girls at work. They're not even girls. They're women. They should know better. They're actually single mothers, are two of them. They should know better how to dress, but they don't know any better. Well, they do know, but that's why they do it. And if you make it noted, like, hey, you know, I'm noticing how you're dressing, and you can't help but look, they get pissed off at you. So it's like, well, you know what? The best way to avoid people staring at you is not to draw attention to yourself. But apparently, they're not the ones with the problem. I am. So, no, actually, I hate to tell you, you're the one who's drawing attention to yourself, and then you're getting angry about it. So you need to reevaluate, kind of grow up, actually. If you're like in your late 20s and 30s, early 30s, you should know better. You should know better by the time you reach the age of 18, because you're no longer a kid. You're a grown adult. So, you know, that cutoff line is between 17 and 18. So if you're in your late 20s and 30s and you still act like, oh, you know, I can dress this way, and if you have a problem with it, it's on you. Well, that means this shows you how very immature you are. You know, it's not me, it's you, meaning the person who dresses that way. So, that being said, I don't want to draw that any further. A friend did send me a lot of interesting stories, but he actually did like what I had mentioned to him in a bunch of voicemails today. I just went off on this rant and rave. I was just, I'm basically annoyed anymore. And I try to explain to him, and I try to look for something like this. Actually, I got to pull up my Facebook again, because it got started when I found these statistics that I had looked and placed on, I guess, my Facebook page and also his, on statistics on minorities and stuff. And I'm like looking at these statistics, and the statistics, for one thing, they just don't match up to what I'm hearing on the news all the time, and just in general in our country. So give me a moment, and I'm not going to pause. So if you can hang in there, that'd be great. For anybody who may listen to me, it's generally not that many people. I'm not seeing them right now. Oh, yeah, because I'm finding ones for sex offenders that I had found the other day. But these were statistics I told a friend, and it was like, okay, these don't match up from what I'm hearing on, you know, the percentage of minorities. Like they're saying, I'm going to look on his page next, actually, because I think I'm going to send it to my friend. But they're saying, like, okay, these stats were saying this about minorities, and, you know, how many, you know, compared to basically Caucasians, you know, and then it broke it down to what do you call it? It broke it down to African American and Hispanics and other ones. And it's like, okay, well, these statistics are, in my opinion, they're just fabricated. So I'm going to see. I'm going to put in again. Stats on race in the U.S. So, is it important? Yeah, it kind of is to me, because, okay, one was from the U.S., quick facts about the U.S. Census Bureau. Other one is population of the United States by race and Hispanic. And another one was U.S. race relations, 6 surprising statistics on BBC. So I'm going to look through these right now. And it's saying, like, people, quick facts, population in 2014 estimates. And, you know, basically there's looks like over 300,000 people in 2014. And it said whites alone, percentage-wise, was 77.7%. It says that black African Americans in 2013 were only 13%. And then it goes down to American Indians, which is 1.2%, Asians, which is 5.3%, Native Hawaiians, less than 2%, 0.2%, any other race, 2.4%, 2 or more races was actually a little bit high, or no, was like 2.4%. The other one was 2%. I'm kind of just general. You can find these statistics yourself. Hispanic and Latino was 17%. White alone, not Hispanic or Latino in 2013 was over, 62%. So it was like, okay, but these statistics don't match up with what I see on the news. They say one thing and they victimize minorities, especially the African Americans in this country, and it doesn't match up with what they're showing. So that's what kind of got this whole ball rolling. The other one was infoplease.com, race and Hispanic Latino origin, total population over 300, and looks like over 300. Well, actually, it's probably close to. I'm not very good with numbers. Anyway, single race, white. I'm just going to go by percentages. I'll probably be better that way. 63% of population is about 75%. Black African Americans, once again, is low by what they show on these stats, which I think are fabricated. 12.2% overall, 12.3%. Native American Indians, 0.7, overall 0.9. Asians, 4.7, overall 3.6. Native Hawaiian, 0.15 or 0.1. Two or more races, 1.9, overall 2.4. Some other race, 0.2 to 5.5 overall. Hispanic or Latino, 16.3 to 12.5. It's like, okay, there's a reason, by the way, I'm bringing all this stuff up. And that's what I wanted my topic to be. And I told a friend, yeah, this is going to be what my thing is. Comparing the statistics I see, what I really see going on, and, this whole thing that it seems like I'm always picking on African Americans. And no, I'm not. I really am not. I'm just trying to point out things I see. Is it really factual? Well, that's what I want to know, because what I see and what is really going on are completely different. And I think it's just another one of these things the media and the news just tries to victimize, like they do with women and the gay population, where they try to victimize, and usually they upscale what's going on with women being victimized and with not African Americans, I'm sorry, and with some other issues. But when it comes to African Americans, they always downscale, like, oh, they're only 12% of the nation, they're only 14% of the nation, they're only 13% of the nation. And here was another article. It was on BBC News. It says U.S. race relations, 6 surprising statistics. And it's trying to victimize African Americans. It says a white gunman shot dead 9 people in an African American church in the city of Charleston. I'm not denying that. On June 17th, police say, but 2 months after the unarmed black man was killed by a white police officer in North Charleston, 2 months after that, an unarmed black man was killed by a white police officer in North Charleston. The killings have the killings have reinitiated the debate about race relations in the U.S. Here are 6 surprising statistics to help tell the story. And it says black billionaires, there was only 2. They're actually saying there's only 2 black billionaires. Well, you know what? 2% of the nation is the wealthiest. 2% of our nation is only is the wealthiest part of our nation. So they're saying there's 2. Well, there's not that much more that are like billionaires. There's only probably a handful. So again, it just tries to victimize things, and all this does, it stirs the pot up even more. And I gave a comparison contrast to a friend on a plethora of voicemails, but you have to hear me out. I am not trying to offend anybody, but it is actually, it's not factual. But I believe, because it's my opinion, I understand that, but I believe I could easily explain how I can compare what happened, and you're going to probably get offended, so I'm letting people know now. I'm giving the chance to understand what I'm ready to say. But I can compare and probably make a very valid point to the way the African Americans are victimizing themselves and how they're basically getting the upper hand on everyone else in our nation. So my comparison I gave to a friend today, and this is going to sound very harsh, so I'm just letting people know up front, but I easily, and he agreed with me, my friend, what I left the voicemails to, I compared it to Nazi Germany, and you're like, oh, God, you're crazy. You're probably going to think I'm totally nuts. Well, here's my explanation. If you think about it, and this is an explanation I gave to a friend, if you think about it seriously, in Nazi Germany, what was the problem that caused this Third Reich to, become so in power, how they were able to convince people? Well, most of it was propaganda, but there was also another part of it too. The propaganda, yes, definitely worked. Germany, before it became known as the Third Reich, known as Nazi Germany, was a depressed state. A friend agreed with everything I said, so I'm going to say it again, and I'm kind of generalizing it now, but Germany was, you had a lot of people that, they were headed towards their, basically, what we had in U.S. years ago, a depression. And, there was a lot of people in Germany that felt that the Jews, and I'm not saying that as being sarcastic or racist, but the Jews basically always, and they still probably do, they keep their trade within their own group, and that's understandable. That's actually probably obviously very smart. So, and they are hard workers. So here you have Germany, and the only ones who weren't feeling the butt of the depression were the Jews, because the Jewish people, because again, they kept their skilled trades within their own community. And that made a lot of Germans very upset, because they felt like, okay, the Jews are the only ones not suffering. We are heading towards a depression. We are actually there, and we don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. So then you have come along Adolf Hitler, and I'm trying to be serious about this, so please don't get offended. I am just stating what I've known. A lot of this could be considered factual, but it's just I'm trying to compare and contrast what's going on now, and especially in the black community, and what happened in Nazi Germany. So I might even title that on my thing tonight. So it's not to offend anybody. It's gonna offend some people, but it's not my intention. But if you look at it back. Before World War II, Germany was really bad off. A lot of people were out of work, could not find work. It was basically, Germany was not a very strong country. So you had people like, you had a person, other people who followed him, Adolf Hitler, and he, promised to change things. And what did he do? He blamed the Jews for their economic problems. So I'm just trying to do a compare and contrast, because look what's happening now in our country. You have these riots amongst black Americans who feel like they've been repressed for 200 years or whatever. They felt like they've been wronged, and they just, you had these riots that they destroyed things, and they felt like they were entitled to do that. They feel like they're entitled to things without working for it sometimes. That's not always the case, because I've had friends that were black and they work very hard. But I've seen people, black Americans years ago, work a lot harder than some do now. Some of them feel like they just should be handed this stuff. And it's even gotten worse, because in that mix, you also have other races who feel like from the South, I mean, in Mexico, other countries that feel like, okay, well, I'm entitled to come here and I shouldn't have to, I should not have to go through the steps of becoming a legal citizen. I should be given that privilege. And, who we have in office allows that to happen. So that's an issue too. But the main issue I'm focusing on tonight is not that. That's a whole different story. It's just I'm going to focus on one thing in the African Americans, which I rather just call them black Americans. We never called anybody African Americans, because if that's the case, you might as well call me an Italian American. So I don't care. I'm an American. I'm not an Italian American. I am not a Dutch American. I am not a Sicilian American. My ancestors are all still live in Sicily, but you don't hear me going around and say, well, you need to call me a Sicilian American. No, you just call me an American. So I was born here. I was raised here. I never stepped foot in Sicily. I have no desire to, actually. So I'm not a Sicilian American. I'm an American American. So for this particular thing, I'm just going to call them black Americans. Well, if you want, you can call me a Creole or whatever. I don't care. Well, I'm not a Creole, though. But, whatever suits your fancy. So I really could care less. But for this case, though, I'm going to go back to what I was mentioning before. And what happened in Germany, any type of minority group or somebody who was different, which the Jews weren't the ones that weren't suffering through this depression that Germany was going through. Adolf Hitler obviously was a racist and other things. And he said, well, look, the Jews aren't suffering like we are. So you need to genocide a race. So how does that compare to what's going on? Well, I'll explain that in a minute, though. But it's very, very similar, though, because he blamed the Jewish race, or not race, or not a race, but the Jews for the problems in Germany. And the only way you could take care of that problem is by genociding a whole race. And he had people convinced, because of media, which we have now, doing the same exact thing in our country, the media and because that's what propaganda comes from, media and press. Them telling our society now the same thing that Nazi Germany, which was known as, did back then. They convinced people that, yeah, our problems are because of these Jews. It's not because we did anything wrong. We are entitled to more than what we're getting, and it's because the Jews took everything away from us. Well, that's not true. They worked hard, and they made their living by handing their trade over to their offspring. So, okay, so take that in consideration now. Now, how does it compare? And you got somebody who is exactly in many ways, like Adolf Hitler. And I'm not saying it to be mean or just to be racist, but Obama's doing the same thing. He's taking advantage of media and press and doing these long teleprompted lectures, telling people how we need change and we need to uprise the people that have been repressed. Well, that was the same thing that Adolf Hitler did with Germany. That is exactly what Obama is doing now. Now, what I mentioned earlier also was you have these statistics, which I don't believe at all. These statistics show that the African American race, I said it, which I said I wasn't. The Black American race makes up only 14% of the nation. Well, if that's true, why most people in our culture or in our country live in urban or suburban areas? As you go further out, you're going to have communities of people, but not on a large scale. So in these large scale areas that, are occupied by human beings in this country, what makes up most of these communities? It's mostly Black Americans, but yet they're only 14% of the nation. So those statistics don't match up. It's like me being a white person in a room full of black people. Well, let me put this another way. I'm trying to think how to say this correctly to make sure it makes sense. It'd be like me saying that, yes, I'm a single white male. Actually, I'm Sicilian, but I'm just going to, for the sake of argument, I'm a single white male, the only single white male in a room full of 100 black people. Now, what if I would say, well, those black people in that room, that's all I'm talking about, these people, that they are the minority of that room. Does that make any sense to you? I'm one white person and you got 100 black people in one room. I'm not trying to be sarcastic, folks, but I'm just saying that's the same way I see the news and the media and these stats presented. They're saying, well, the black community is only made up of 14%. So on my small scale example, I said, okay, I'm one technically white person in a room filled with 100 black people, but yet they're the minority. Well, they are the minority. No, I'm just talking about that room. I'm not talking about anything else. I'm talking about that room. And the news, the media, the press, our president will convince everybody, well, yes, they are the minority because there is less of them than the one person of me. Does that make any sense? Well, no, it actually doesn't. Because I'm just giving you a statistics. Like, the statistics I'm given are greater than or less than or equal to. I just said one white person compared to 100 black people. So, the actual answer to that question is one white person can compare to 100 black people means it is me who is the minority, not them. But our society convinces everybody, because we live in a society of everybody that is not white is some type of victim, and who is not a white male is a victim. And what do you call it? The press, the media, just any type of news source has convinced everybody this is the actual fact, this is the truth. And I hate to say it, the statistics, I think, are fabricated. They're saying, well, oh no, but this is the truth. These statistics are going by a place of birth, people being born, and blah, blah, blah. But no, these statistics are fabricated to get the results they want people to see. And what do they want to see? They want to show that our country discriminates against anybody who is not a white male. But it's actually not the truth. It's the other way around. So that's what I'm trying to say. Getting back again, because I went off on a different direction, that you got there's these statistics show that black Americans make up only 14% of the nation. Well, the Philadelphia area is almost 80%, probably 90% black. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying this does not match up to the statistics that they show. That, the stats say that they're only 14%. Well, that's true. Why is majority of Philadelphia black Americans? And you got other big cities, including Washington, D.C., which is not a city, it's a district, is made up majority of black Americans. So this does not fit the statistic that says they're only 14% when they make up 80 to 90% of most of these cities. So I hope that makes sense. But then you have, like I said, the same way Hitler used it. He's got this whole thing going on. Well, you're being victimized, and you need to, be more. We need to make this balance that is not there. Well, the balance is now never been as bad as what they're making it out to be, and it's now gotten much, much worse. That's what I'm trying to say. And what I told this friend, if you look at the people in the Senate seats and the government, it's majority of them are minorities and majority of them are black. So, what is the statistics? Well, they're being repressed, black Americans. It's not true. That's what I'm trying to state. Who collects the most benefits from the government? Who of any sort for living assistance, for food stamps, to get a cell phone, housing assistance? I might have mentioned that. It's all minorities, and mainly most of those minorities are made up of black Americans. So yet they are the ones victimized. Most of the jobs I've had in the past, recently actually, well, for the past, I would say 14, 15 years, most of the people in the higher positions, if not women, are all all black Americans. They hold the higher positions. And where I work now, it's about, I would say, almost 80%. At the job I work now is 80% black Americans hold these higher end jobs. 80% of them. But yet, the statistics say they only make up 14%. Now, here's another thing I mentioned to a friend. If it's only 14% that make up black Americans, that would mean and the interracial relationships that you now see, and that's black Americans dating white Americans, make up almost, I would say, around what I've seen, about at least over, I'm going to be generous this time, over 50% of the relationships, interracial relationships. And I'm not even just talking about Hispanics, because that's also a big thing. Around the areas I visited outside of my state is generally, I would say, over 50% black Americans, generally black American men dating white American women. So my point is, okay, these statistics show that only 14% of the United States is made up of black Americans. Well, if that's true, for a white woman to find, I'm using this as an example, to find a black American male to have a relationship would be almost near physically impossible. It would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. Well, what I see, that's the reality part of what the statistics are showing, because there was a statistics on I looked up that too, by the way, interracial relationships. Now, I found statistics to say it was only accepted by a small margin back in the 50s, and it's now like 87% accepted. But you know what? That's also, in my opinion, not only what is accepted, that's how much the margin is on those type of relationships also taking place. So I'm not trying to be racist or sexist. I'm just trying to state what I see, and what they show on the news is not, or tell you on the news, not what they show you, what they tell you on the news. What they tell you on these statistics are completely different from what is going on. So it's more like not looking for a needle in the haystack. It's more like the haystack is over, it's the other way around. So somebody's, when people are saying, well, black Americans are being victimized, they're still being discriminated upon, they're still being, treated as like subhumans. Well, you know what? I've dealt with that all the way growing up, and I still do. I get discriminated upon, but you don't hear anybody on the news talking about me getting discriminated upon. They just victimize and they say, well, there's such a small population of the United States that they need to be given a fair shake. Well, they make up more than 14%. But the statistics will never change, because if they actually told the truth on, if it happens to be about interracial relationships, or about the statistics on really how many black Americans are in the U.S., it would be completely different. It would be on the other side of the spectrum on what they're actually really telling people. And how does this fit into what's going on and what I mentioned earlier with my comparison to Nazi Germany with the black Americans in the U.S.? It is pretty much the same, in the sense that they convinced everybody that they are being victimized, and it's that the white male who has done all this damage to these poor victims of black Americans, which is not true. They actually have everything now. You have a black president. We have a black president. We also have many people in these office positions that are black Americans. And we also have tons of minorities of different ethnic backgrounds in these positions, but yet they're still being victimized. How can that be when the ones who are truly being victimized are the white Americans? So we, the white males in America, are no different at this point than the way the Jews were treated in Nazi Germany. That's what I'm trying to compare. So how does that make sense? Well, it actually, if you look at it, it kind of does, because you have a president who basically feeds the news. The news actually helps them out. The same way the media back then with Nazi Germany and Hitler helped him rise into power. So it was, back then with Hitler and the media, it was all propaganda that people believed what he was saying, because they showed his face. They built him up to be some type of god to Germany. He was going to rise, help them rise out of their depression and make them a very powerful country, which he had done for a very long time. But it's the same thing what's going on now in the U.S., but it's not with the Jews and the Germans. It's now with the white male being discriminated upon by the black Americans and other minority groups, saying, oh, yes, we are only a small percentage. It's the white males. It's the white people that are the ones in power. We are just helpless victims. So that makes it valid for them to take every position, if they're qualified or not, get the most out of the benefits, and don't even nowadays. I find it disgraceful to people I grew up with that I knew were black Americans who actually really worked hard. It's an insult to them. It's a slap in their face. So that's what I'm trying to point out. I said it a little bit differently when I left my messages for my friend, because I was very angry. But I'm just trying to state that what you hear and what you see in your surroundings is completely different. And by giving people things that they truly don't deserve because they haven't made work for them, and you're convincing them that they deserve this stuff because they've been discriminated upon, which sometimes can be the case, but I was discriminated upon growing up. I was harassed, teased, threatened, and everything else, but you don't hear me saying, well, I should get free money free living. I shouldn't even have to pay for my car. I shouldn't have to pay anything. You owe me something. I had a friend who actually said that one time. She says, you owe me. It's like, nobody owes me anything and nobody owes anyone else anything. If you want something, you got to work for it. So this is the problem I have. This is what I'm hoping in 2016 that we will have real change like we did back when we had President Reagan, where, we put more people back to work. I hope we will see that again. And I hope this nonsense stops that, black Americans are being discriminated upon, because it's not the truth. It's just another way. It's like, history repeating itself. But this time it's not in Germany, it's in the U.S. You got a man who is, who calls himself the president, has no idea what he's doing. He's made everybody fully convinced that black Americans are being truly discriminated upon. He has given everything to them. He's given basically allowed more people to go on welfare and not even have to look for a job if they're on welfare. He's given everything to them, everybody. There's a separation between races, even more so with this man, and especially with the black Americans, and thanks to this president. And there's more racial tension there ever has been in this country since the founding fathers found the USA. I mean, it's gotten that bad. It's like it's gone beyond regression. It's just gotten really, really bad. And to me, I'm sorry, I don't know how else to compare it, but I truly do believe, I'm not trying to be racist, and I don't think I am, but yeah, the situation between being a white male, which I really am not, I'm Sicilian, and the black Americans is exactly the same situation which happened in Nazi Germany between the Jews and the Germans, the true Germans. There was that segregation. Well, if you eliminate these Jews, everything else will become much better because they're the ones destroying your lives. Not that it's your fault that your society is falling apart. It's because of these Jews. Well, that's what this country is now being convinced by, again, media, press, and our president. They're convincing black Americans it's all everybody else's fault. And they shouldn't take any responsibility, and they should just act like fools. So anyway, that's what I mainly wanted to state tonight. I don't know how well I presented myself or my reason, but this is the reason, though, that I do make a lot of comments. I'm not trying to be racist when I find these articles. These articles are always being posted. I find sources that aren't going to gloss over the truth and basically give you a one-sided issue. Now, you're going to say, oh, yeah, well, you're still giving me a one-sided issue because now you just prove to me, people who may listen to me, that you don't like black people. That is not true. And that's the same thing with any other race. If it's Hispanic, Latino, some other type of Latino race, it doesn't matter. Again, because my grandparents came over literally on a boat from Sicily on my father's side. And I never, ever thought of them or myself as being a Sicilian American. I just thought of myself, and my father thinks of himself as an American. So again, the nonsense has got to stop. And just feeling like you're victimized or you're allowed to destroy towns because you've been repressed for 200 years, that is nothing more than just BS. So those people need to grow up. And unfortunately, we have a growing society of children, grown adults who just never grow up. That's what I mean. As one professor told me, that's called perpetual adolescence. People who just don't want to grow up, who don't want to take responsibility and just want to continue to blame others for their failures. So anyway, that's what I'm going to talk. That's all I have to talk about tonight, everyone. So have a good Wednesday morning, and I am signing off.